Hello and welcome to a review for the 2020 Memorial Tournament. This is SweetSpot DFS, and in these reviews what I like to do is recap the tournament really quickly, then go right into the 2020 DK page where it had all of my stats, had all of the data that I felt was important, and we'll see how, first of all, we'll review those stats and see if any of those things popped out as pertinent stats going forward for this tournament, and then we'll kind of look at the model that I had created and see how well we did, and see where we can improve. But before we get into that video, I would like to remind you can watch us in a faster speed. If you're on desktop, go ahead, drag your mouse over the screen. You'll find a gear icon right down here. Drill down on that, you'll find playback speed. I prefer 1.5, but if you were to choose 2 times speed, you'll cut the video in half. On mobile, you'll find that top right-hand corner, 3 dots that make a vertical line. Drill down on that, you'll find playback speed there. I'll also have timestamps in the description. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's put up the spreadsheet. That way you can look at something while I'm talking, and not just have to stare at this sunburnt mug. If you're on Twitter, you'd have saw I posted nothing over the weekend. Primarily because I was at a golf tournament, which was successful. So it was a good tournament, but I really couldn't watch any golf. I did look at updates here and there. I was checking my DraftKings, that kind of thing. So I really didn't get to see anything. But on my ride home, I got to hear a lot of the tournament. I golfed in a tournament about like 3.5 hours away from where I live. So I got to listen to the entire conclusion of the tournament. So it was awesome because if you haven't listened to PGA Tour radio before, they go really in depth on a lot of stuff. Much like the TV broadcast, they only really follow like the main groups. Sometimes they'll talk about a golfer that's getting hot, but most of the time they don't. But yeah, it sounded interesting. It sounded like Jon Rahm was gonna basically give up the tournament. With an 8-shot lead heading into the back or to begin the day. It really, I mean, he would have had to have the blow up of the ages for him not to win the tournament. It was heading that way, but he still had a huge cushion, and he basically closed out on hole 16 when he chipped in for birdie. I know there was a rules infraction because of close-up camera angle. What it looked like to me is when he pressed the grass down, the grass moved, which I guess you could say moved the golf ball, but like the golf ball didn't roll it didn't roll from like one blade of grass to another. It just looked like when he grounded the club, the grass just bent forward a little bit, and that moved the ball. I don't think it deserved a penalty. And I've heard numerous people. I mean, one of the guys on PGA Tour radio said, this is very unfair for golfers throughout the entire field because Mackenzie Hughes had a really good round of golf today, but there were no cameras on him. So that rules infraction does not happen to him, which I totally agree with. If you're not putting a camera on everybody and that camera doesn't create a penalty for somebody, it shouldn't for Jon Rahm. And I am a proponent of letting the players call each other out on rules and then going to a camera instant replay or whatever, like we have in other sports. It's up to the playing partner. That's what it says in the rules. It doesn't say anything about cameras or anything like that. If Ryan Palmer were to have seen that and would have been like, hey, just let you know your ball moved, and then there was a discussion afterwards, would have made perfect sense. Yeah, it's just unfortunate that we have these high-tech cameras that look at that type of thing. It was, I mean, in the long run, Jon Rahm still won. I feel like for the avid viewer, or not even so much the avid viewer, but just the casual viewer, I feel like what this does for the game is like, really, we're gonna have this very thin-lipped or tight-lipped society where it's like if you don't follow rules exactly, you don't belong here. You know, I don't think we want to promote that for the game of golf. I know this is a PGA Tour and they should be held to a higher standard, but like it still revolves around the playing group. That's how we should teach rules, and I think the PGA Tour should actually do that for the casual golfer. Here's what Jon Rahm did, and then say Ryan Palmer needed to have seen it, and same with Jon Rahm. Jon Rahm had to have seen it himself as well, call himself on it. Now, there was somebody on the PGA Tour radio that also said, I'm not going to name any names, but we know golfers who won't call penalties on themselves. Patrick Reed, you know, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a, you know, a two-way street, a double-edged blade, you know, like it's difficult, honestly, but I do believe that the playing partner needs to call that kind of stuff out. So that's all I'm going to spend on that. Like I said, Jon Rahm won pretty easily. It was impressive. I tweeted out a couple things that the PGA Tour communications had sent out, like there were only 2 rounds in the 60s, or something like that. Oh shoot. Yeah, I think when it came to like how hard this last round was, there was only one golfer who played something like who shot in the 60s when the average score for that round was like 76 or above, and it was Matthew Fitzpatrick. He shot a 68 today. And if I recall, I think he's the only person that shot in the 60s. You can always look it up on the DK page. I might as well. Don't want to say something and it not be correct. So round 4. Yeah, Matthew Fitzpatrick, only golfer to shoot in the 60s. So and that was, I believe that had to do, or that was everything to do with how hard the golf course was. So anyways, Jon Rahm winning at this course and how tough it was like a US Open. A lot of people are kind of making the comparisons to a US Open. It was very tough. So I don't know what to look at for like a tournament like this going forward. The wind picked up, and that's what made this tournament hard. Essentially, that and the conditions were really, really tough. Thicker rough, faster greens, but then it all came down to the wind. Like, it was all about the wind. So, you know, I don't know exactly what you want to make of it, but Jon Rahm winning in that kind of environment, Matthew Fitzpatrick shooting that score with those conditions, that's all a testament to look at something like the US Open. Or if we're at a golf course that has these fast conditions, these hard conditions, with this strength of field, I think it's definitely something to consider. Okay. 2 other things I wanted to talk about were Tiger Woods and Jason Day. Just those 2 golfers. Now, Tiger Woods didn't finish the greatest, but he did make the cut. I was tweeting out, something looked like Tiger's Friday round to make the cut. He looked like he was laboring, like his back, like he was. I mean, he just looked like he was walking around very gingerly. So I suppose we should have seen something like this happening. His first tournament back for competition in a long time. I would assume that helped his back out, but if I'd assume, and I kind of know what this feels like. I don't have that back injury, but if you don't play for a while and then you go out and you play in a tournament like I did this weekend, and you don't play in tournaments week after week, you're not building up your endurance. I got tired. My legs stiffened up, my lower back stiffened up. I I can only imagine what Tiger felt, like what he feels while he's golfing. He's at a different level, obviously, and he's doing the most he can, but we haven't seen him in tournament play. So he's not really dealing with difficult situations when he's golfing. He probably could be practicing somewhat legitly when he's out on the course by himself, but most likely probably not. You know, he probably hits a bad shot and it's like, oh, I'm gonna throw it on another one and see what his potential is, like we all do. Perhaps I'm wrong, but that's my take on it. He looked so frail and fragile, and that's a good segue to Jason Day, who could barely pick a ball out of the hole. When he went to go bend down to pick the ball up. Is Jason Day the next, is he going to have the same kind of mindset as Tiger? Like he's always going to play in pain? If that's the case, I think that's okay to play Jason Day going forward, but it's difficult. The last time we saw him tee up, I think it was last week. I'm not positive exactly, but I wouldn't have wanted to play him based off of what I saw then, because he was also like very gingerly picking the ball up out of the hole. So I have no idea. I have no idea what to do with Jason Day. I'm still gonna err on the side of caution. I don't want to play him if he's going to have back issues. He's a WD. He's so close to a WD happening. We have a handful of golfers that we know a WD can happen at any time. Jason Day is one of them. Kevin Na is another one. Obviously Jason Kokrak withdrew this week. Who else withdrew? I forget. We had Danny Lee withdrawing and Nate Lashley withdrawing. I have no idea why those two withdrew, but that obviously happened. So anyways, that's all I have to say about Jason Day. He did look so fragile out there as he was playing, as he was picking the golf, like tees up off the tee, picking golf balls up from the hole. It looked painful, to say the least. Okay, that's enough for the recap. Let's get into the recent form tab. This is where we go over optimal lineup, and then I didn't play the Millie Maker this week. I had said on Twitter, I'm just bleeding too much money in the Millie Maker. So my highest entry fee was the Birdie, the $3 Birdie lineup, or the $3 Birdie. So in that tournament, in that contest, the $3 winning lineup is highlighted in blue. That was John Rahm, Jason Day, Matt Wallace, Mackenzie Hughes, Xander Schauffele, and Patrick Cantlay. Now, he tied somebody, but I won't lie. One of his players was near the bottom of the people who made the cut, bottom of the leaderboard. So I didn't want to go over it to talk about it, but this lineup tied with another one, and it was a different lineup. So just I wanted you guys to know that. The optimal lineup was John Rahm, Ryan Palmer, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Jason Day, Matt Wallace, and Tony Finau. The optimal lineup would have only used $47,100 of your $50,000 salary. The winning lineup used all $50,000. So there are DFS pros, I guess you'd call them, or experts that would say don't use all $50,000. The thing is, when you win a contest using $50,000, this is probably the fourth or fifth tournament where a GPP was won by using all $50,000. Now, yeah, he tied somebody, and obviously that's going to be first and second place prize money split in half. But who cares? You won. That's the thing is, sure, when we look at the stats and 50% of people in the Millie Maker use $50,000 salary, that doesn't automatically just straight wipe them away from being able to win $1 million. Yeah, it doesn't improve their chances of not having a lineup that that duplicates somebody else's, but it also doesn't ensure that you have a duplicate lineup. You know, like there's so many different combinations you could use in order to get to that 50,000. Now, when it's like thousands of people that duplicate that lineup, which obviously there is, I don't remember what the pool is of people who play in the Millie Maker, but yeah, there's probably hundreds of thousands of people, or maybe not that much, maybe tens of thousands of people that have a duplicate entry somewhere. It just depends on which lineup it is and how many times. You know, if it's an even split all across, then yeah, you're screwed if you had 50,000, or if you use 50,000. Yeah, you'd probably be screwed. But anyways, I digress. Let's go forward. Yeah, optimal lineup, that would have been difficult to go with. But Ryan Palmer seemed like a pretty good... you know what? We'll save that for the DK page. I won't go further into it. But yeah. Oh, the $3 Birdie winning lineup scored 489 points. The optimal lineup scored 536. So there was some possibilities of... I mean, there's some room for improvement, basically, is what I'm getting at. Okay. Let's go ahead and go right into the 2020 DK page. So what I'm going to do here is we'll go over... Let's take a first look at... I shouldn't say first look, but let's take a recap of the top salary golfers and what they did. Obviously, Bryson missed the cut. We kind of already knew what happened there. He got a 10 on a par 5. He was at +2 at the time, I believe. So obviously, adding 5 to that score, he didn't make the cut, needless to say. But he easily could have if he didn't play that whole stupid. JT, 18th place. You wouldn't want JT on your team at 18th. There's no value for his price. Same with Rory. DJ looked awful. 2 rounds in the 80s. That was disgusting. Morikawa, he had a really good Friday round, but obviously he didn't back that up on rounds 3 and 4. Cantlay on the 4th round, like he was solid. And even on round 3, I think he was to 6 under at one point in time. So 70-70, that'd have been 4 under. He was 2 under on his round 3 score and somehow ended up with a 73. I didn't really follow, didn't watch, so that's insane. Hovland, 3 rounds of 74 or worse, but a 66 in round 2. So that was interesting. 48th place. I thought he was going to do much better than that. Matsuyama missed the cut. I wasn't playing a lot of Matsuyama. John Rahm obviously won. I didn't play a lot of John Rahm. That was my bad. I played a lot of Xander. I played a lot of Tiger, and I played a lot of Cantlay. So all of them made the cut, but none of them won, which was disappointing. You know, like I played a lot of Tiger, so that it is what it is. And I played a lot of Berger too. So Berger missing the cut, I probably paired him up with a lot of Tiger and Xander lineups. Just didn't work out. Yeah, I'm not gonna recap everybody. That just the guys up here on the top pricing. You can obviously see what happens. So okay, let's get right into. I'm gonna go over the starting holes. We'll go from left to right, and then we'll come back and look at the model later. So I'm gonna go and sort this by result. So 1st through 20, essentially. What you see that's highlighted in yellow are golfers that were paired together with anyone else in the top 20. So John Rahm was paired with Tony Finau. If you started with your stack like that, amazing. They were 1-2 for a while. Like you should have, I mean, that would have been the dream scenario. I always am a proponent of pairing golfers up together. So you had 1st and 8th place. And again, Tony was up there. Tony was leading this tournament for a while. Having those guys together, and he was part of the optimal lineup. So boom, right there. Perfect. And then Ryan Palmer golfed with Steve Stricker. So even if you put Palmer and Stricker together, that's 6,000 and 6,400 respectively. Like that gave you a lot of salary relief. So if you wanted to play anyone else that was, you know, a bit more expensive, you certainly could have. I'm not seeing anyone else that's paired up together. But I mean, you put those two together, you put Rom, Day, Finau, and then sure, you could put Justin Thomas. Maybe that would have worked. So Stricker, Palmer, Rom, Finau. What does, if I put JT on there? Yeah, so 40,900 is what I'm currently using. If I were to put Jason Day on that, or if we didn't like Jason Day, we put Matthew Fitzpatrick. We're only using 49,000. So it would have been doable. It would have been difficult for most of us to not use all 50,000. So I'm just saying it was doable. And maybe you don't go Fitzpatrick. We go Xander. No, we're a little over. Yeah, we couldn't do Xander. Darn. Anyways, but yeah, you can see all the golfers that are paired together. You can see what game they are. It's probably easier to look who's all paired up together. Matt Wallace and Brennan Steele. Who knew that was going to be a good lineup or a good pairing to have? But hey, it worked. Okay, we're gonna go through this a little quick. I'm gonna try to at least. I don't want. I'm on a time crunch, so what I'm going to do is just really go through this fast. Here are your odds. I'm not going to discuss a lot about odds. I will say this. Look at the salary and the official World Golf ranking. We're trying to find salary and the ranking to find a value play like a Matt Wallace. Like, that's a value play. Even Mackenzie Hughes. I think anyone that's under 6,900 who's in the top 100 ranked golfers in the world, I think that's where we have to look at those golfers and say, yes, we should play those golfers because they're such a good value. And especially in a difficult field like this, in a difficult golf course tournament like this, I think it plays dividends. If let's go ahead and just look at salary and come down to the 7K range. Actually, how about this? We'll put a filter on this, less than or equal to 7,000. Hit OK. So we got that, and we can put the official golf rankings up top. So now that I say that, there's a ton of golfers up here. Jeez, there are so many. So 28 that are within the top 100. And how many made a cut? 1, 2. I'm saying how many finished top 10. So, or just top 20. 3. So what was that? 3 out of 28. Yeah, those aren't good percentages, and that's why I don't really like to play one golfer, a bunch of times from the 7K range. I do like to mix it up. But we'll look at the model later. Maybe that will give us a little bit more insight of what 7K and below golfer we should actually play. But right now, let's keep going forward. You can go ahead, look at points per game and value. It really doesn't matter to me because, like, Jason Day, terrible value, still finished top 5. I mean, you could even say Mackenzie Hughes, not great value. But at 6,700, that doesn't even matter. It really doesn't matter at all. I guess there's pretty decent value up here for anyone that's over 8K. I mean, Ryan Palmer, tremendous value. Why he was 6,400, who knows? Maybe it's because of his terrible showing here last week at the Workday Charity Open. Lots of decent values here as well. So I'm not going to go over this. You guys can see it. Let's go ahead, hide this information. Now, course history was one of those things I thought was going to be a bit more important. To see Ryan Palmer with no course history is interesting to me. Matt Wallace makes sense. So does Norlander. I do believe those were first-time players at this golf course. But I don't think Ryan Palmer, that was his first time playing. My stats only go back to 2013, so it would make sense. I don't have course history if he played earlier than that. But I believe he did play. Now, of course history, we have a few guys that are top 20, basically. Don't mind me. There's a few golfers here that are top 20. That's what this dark green color represents. The light green is 20 to 40 ranked in the field, and yellow would be 40 to 60 ranked in the field. So really, course history minus Jon Rahm looks like it mattered quite a bit. Kind of like what we anticipated in the preview video. Yeah, finding two golfers, these two golfers made top 10. I mean, that's reasonable, and especially at their price, that's reasonable. If we were to look at recent form, again, now this is more interesting because I have seen in past tournaments here, like 2019, even the workday, where recent form really mattered. If I go to the 2019, like this recent form is impeccable. Now this is during a different time. We're in COVID times now where we have a different schedule. So I don't know exactly how this plays out. And this tournament usually is played earlier in the year. So with the tournaments that are preceding this, I mean, we have a world-class, you know, like if you look at the top here, a bunch of really good golfers. I'm not sure. I mean, you can look, there are actually a lot of golfers that played the week prior coming into this tournament. So the same thing applies here in 2020. Like, oh, sorry. We're looking right here. So it's nearly the same amount of golfers who played the week before, but it's really interesting that recent form doesn't actually play a bigger part in success here. So again, I'm not sure if this is an outlier year. I see down here like recent form. So again, dark green, top 20 in the field, light green, 20 to 40 ranked in the field, yellow's 40 to 60, orange is 60 to 80. So when you get to that 60 number, that's right in the middle, basically. We have a lot of golfers here that have good recent form. Sorry, me doing that removed these golfers. Like that's 12 golfers of the top 20 that had good recent form. So recent form did matter. Like I shouldn't say recent form mattered. Good recent form mattered, but just having decent to good played a huge factor. We'll get into last year. I'm gonna hide that stuff right now. Let's go ahead and look at our Bentgrass. So again, dark green is top 20 in the field. We see a bunch, 6 golfers, top 20 in the field. Light green is 20 to 40. We see a few, or a couple. And yeah, so overall Bentgrass mattered. Now, who was number 1 in the field? Jon Rahm was number 1 in the field for Bentgrass. Jason Day also shows up. Jordan Spieth. But I'm going to go ahead and sort this back by result. You can see the rest of the stats. Now, the 2020 Bentgrass stats, quite a bit of golfers that are top 40 here. 9. So there's 9 there. How about overall bent? I didn't do this for this one, but if I look here, we have 9 as well. We include the yellows, that's 12, which we kind of did. So yeah, Bentgrass, it was an important stat as we figured it would be since this is partly Bentgrass. How about Poa? Because Poa was the other one that I was looking at. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have 10 golfers with good overall Poa, but if I were to go ahead and include the yellow, that's 13. So a few more with overall Poa stats. How about 2020? Doesn't look as many. 6. So 2020 Poa didn't really show up. But yeah, it was a mix of Bentgrass and Poa. Who's our top Poa golfers that came into here? Rahm is down here at number 6, and you have Hovland, Cantlay, Casey, DJ, and McIlroy, which all did not do very well. But then overall Poa, like you can see how many golfers finish inside the top 18. All right, let's go ahead and hide that now and we can again sort by result. So the same thing applies for the color coding. Dark green is top 20 in the field. Light green is 20 to 40, yellow is 40 to 60, and orange is 60 to 80. How many dark green, like when you look at this sheet, dark green, if you were to look at some of these columns, which stat pops out to you as being the most important stat? I'm gonna keep it right here. There's like good drive and bogey avoidance over here, which now that I look at bogey avoidance, that's really interesting. I would have anticipated seeing more green up here, honestly. So bogey avoidance, not one of them. Driving accuracy, it was helpful. Yeah, it was pretty good actually. Six golfers with top 40 stats and driving accuracy. I mean, if you were, could you select those guys as your lineups? $49,400. You sure could. Interesting. And it would have landed you on John Rahm, who won, obviously, and Ryan Palmer, who got second. Now that's top 40 golfers, so you would have to select 6 out of 40, which was interesting. I mean, that would have worked. And I suppose that was good drive accuracy, or good drive percentage, not driving accuracy. Yeah, this is driving accuracy over here. So good drive percentage. That was one thing to work at. Driving accuracy, not so much. Okay, so result. So we kind of went through driving accuracy. Driving distance. That's a big one. Like that thing is popping up to me right now. So we have 9 golfers in the top 40 for driving distance in this field. Make the top 20. Yeah. I kind of looked at that, and I'll get to that in the model. Birdie or better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. 8 in the top 20. Proximity. You can see not a lot of green, so not going to talk about it. Green and reg. That one looked pretty important. 8 golfers in the top 40. Shots gained putting. Strokes gained putting. Just saw me flicker on the screen. That's no good. 10 golfers in the top 40 for putting. That's impressive. Around the green. Now, when I was asking you what stat pops out, to me it was around the green. That was the one stat that was popping out. But like putting also kind of goes hand in hand. If you weren't good at around the green and you had good putting stats, like that would work. But you could overlap with some of these golfers that had good around the green and putting stats. Yeah. So Horschel, English, Spieth, Reed, and Rahm, essentially. Ryan Palmer doesn't fit that. So obviously he had a good putting week. That's why he's up at the top. I mean, he had a decent putting week, right? Overall, the weekend wasn't good, but Saturday or Friday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday were good. So yeah. Approach. This is a ball striker's golf course. Well, when you're looking at approach stats, now again, this is from the PGA, so whatever the PGA gives me, that's what I'm going with. And it's from the beginning of the year up until now. 6 golfers, top 40. Only 2, top 20. So, ball striking course. I don't know. Doesn't look that way, you know. I mean, tee to green is... you basically would include this now. Honestly, ball striking is off the tee and approach combined. So even if that's the case, then you would look at off the tee and approach. How many greens do you see? I mean, like Tony Finau, Xander, English, JT. You know, JT being the best in the field at those 2 stats, you can't definitively say that this is a ball striking golf course if JT's not in the top 10. I mean, I get it. It is a ball striker golf course. Makes sense. But it's still not, it doesn't really, I don't know. To me, when we do a review of these stats and this comes out this way, hard to follow people who are definitively touting this being a ball striking golf course. Just my take on it. But anyways, that's kind of the review of the top 20 in their stats. I didn't want to go through each column of stats and go that way because it probably would add a little too much to the video. I want to keep this a little short. It's already running 35 minutes, so that's no good. Because I do want to talk about the model and what I created. So I created the SweetSpot column over here. And basically what this was the bucket combination combined with the average score of last year bucket, like the last year bucket and last week bucket. Now, if you're not familiar with that, to me, that's my bucket system. Go ahead and look at the preview. I'm not going to explain it here. I'm already short on time, so I'm not going to get into that. But as you can see, like, I don't have many golfers that I have a 0 here because of Matthew Fitzpatrick being a 6'4". Stats would have said play him in 3 lineups. Just overall average for him at his price would have said play him in 2 lineups. So SweetSpot, I have to tinker with this in order to get it on point. But look at all the last year ones. You know, they're last year ones for a reason. What's interesting is the last week scores. And a lot of these players played last week at this tournament, at this golf course. So when we talk about, or when DFS pros, whatever experts, whatever you want to call them, we're talking about what effect would that have? Well, it looked like it mattered playing last week. When you have, 7 golfers inside the top 10, actually, let's see, is this top 10? Yeah, all the way down to Xinjun Zhang. So when 10 out of 12 golfers played last week and they make the top 10, I would say it matters. So definitely a big thing. Only one golfer who made the top 20. A lot of golfers in that 20 to 40 range who did well at this golf course. I mean, who played last week 20 to 40 and then obviously top 10 here. So being in that range, and I knew there was going to be one golfer that was going to be top 20. I just didn't anticipate it being Jason Day, who's going to be top 20 of this tournament. No, top 10 of this tournament who had a top 20 finish last week. Again, like I said, I didn't think it was going to be him, but we have 3 guys down here, Xander, Billy, and Justin Thomas. So I knew somebody was going to be. Okay, so the SweetSpot number didn't look good. And if we were to go ahead and sort by SweetSpot number, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the top, or 7 of the top SweetSpot DFS. Actually, let me get rid of the 9. I'm just gonna go from 10 and above. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 golfers who missed the cut. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 who finished top 20. So it was almost an even mix of 5 and 5. I was really high on Tiger, obviously 24. DJ and Webb being 21 apiece and missing the cut. And you can even throw Bryson up there missing the cut. Like, that's not good. And these numbers are high because they are tier 1 golfers. And in tier 1, it's obviously smaller. If I'm allocating 200 spots out of, 200 positions out of 100 lineups. Yeah, that's the right way to say it. 2 tier 1 golfers, I have to justify who to pick. And obviously you don't see Jon Rahm at all on here, which is problematic. But if we were to go back and look at result, if we look at Jon Rahm, his bucket score, like obviously the last year ones, very good, but like it was a mix of different last years. Now the last year ones are going to have such a higher score because of how many are going to get added to that bucket number. I mean, 8 golfers out of the top 10 did not play last year. All right. Yeah, that's super interesting. Jon Rahm did not play here last year. That's hard to imagine. I feel like that's wrong. Yeah, he didn't. Oh, hold on. He didn't play last year at this tournament. Interesting. I don't know why. Maybe he was overseas playing in a European event. I'm not positive. But either way, So that's a lot of last year ones that made the top 10. And then sprinkle in 6s and 4s. There are no 2s in the top 10. Sure, there are some 2s down here. And then I also have a 3 that's down here. But for the most part, it was all last year ones. That's crazy. And when I make my lineups, I always randomize it. Sometimes I have 5 last year ones. Sometimes I have 6. That's how it goes when they're the higher number. But it would definitely be to my advantage if I were to actually use the stats model or weight the stats model a little heavier. Maybe if I do like an average score of these 2 numbers, I'd get a little bit more on Jon Rahm. But yeah, much like we looked at the 2019 DK page, these are golfers with top 20 stats in the field. So how many times do they have top 20 stats? Jon Rahm had 8. He was not the highest. So Rory, Hideki, Justin, Colin Morikawa, Xander, Patrick, like all of these golfers here had more than Jon Rahm. And I would have probably selected all of them, especially when the sweet spot score was that much. And even the stats model was that high when it came to ownership. But Jon Rahm only suffered a little, a little less than the sweet spot number. Yeah, the sweet spot number goes a lot with bucket combination, and when Jon Rahm is 16.67 and the rest of golfers in tier 1, which we said was from 8,900 up, when we're selecting and we're looking at all of this, the bucket combination, like only Justin Rose, he tied, or not tied, Justin Rose was the only other golfer that had a worst bucket score, or not worse, but tied him. But either way, I got to look at, last year. I should put more weight on that. Just the last year buckets didn't have, it was all over the place. So it was really difficult to choose from who was going to be good and whatnot. But yeah, I need to revamp this somehow, some way. What I thought about doing was including in the sweet spot number really something with stats somehow, whatever the important stat was. And really, it was bent grass, it was Poa, it was around the green, some tee to green, and good drive percentage. That's what I saw as the main stats that popped out for this tournament. I also included this column here, which is golfers who hit the ball 295 yards on average or more, and then having positive strokes gained approach. So if I were to go ahead and sort by this, you can see enough of these golfers show up, and that is important. Only Luke List didn't show up, but I know he hits it further than 295. I don't think I have. Yeah, I didn't update his stats. Yeah, so he does. 304.7 is what his, yeah. So I didn't update that. This is, and what was his approach? Approach was positive. So that would be a 2 as well. So all of the golfers here, 295 plus. If I were to take the 2s and the 1s out and show you just all the blanks, only Steve Stricker shows up. The rest of them, like this, if you knew that and you could just cut these guys out, 26 golfers you cut out of your pool, like that was huge. So something to look at, but unfortunately I have to cut this video short. My time is up. I have to go do something. So I didn't think I really got through the review as much as I wanted to, but it's 44 minutes long. I think it's probably good enough. So thank you guys for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you in the preview video for the 3M Open. All right, see you later.